Well, Mr. Khululekile Ncandana lost his son in the Enyobeni tragedy, which is now something that happened almost a year ago, and the families of those 21 young people are still waiting for a conclusive set of evidence, if you will, or some level of accountability for what happened. He joins us tonight to talk about the case so far. A very good evening to you, Mr. Ncandana. Thank you so much for speaking to us under what I would imagine are still very difficult circumstances for you and your family.
Thank you very much. Good evening. It is still very difficult for myself and my family. It's almost a year now, and as you also can see that we are still going through to the courts, and the case that is before the courts now is for the owner of the establishment to sell liquor to the underage children. So the criminal case has not started yet. We're still waiting as the investigation is still ongoing.
Do you have any faith, as you say, the tavern owners are only charged at the moment with allegedly selling booze to underage people, aka children? Do you have any faith, any confidence at this stage that there will be a criminal case against someone for what happened on that night in June last year?
To be honest with you, as much as I do have faith, but I'm not happy for that to take quite a long time. I mean, it's almost a year now and nothing has been done criminally yet. And we feel that we are being failed as the parents. Something should have been done by now. I mean, for 21 children to die and nothing criminally has been done yet, it's quite disappointing.
And as things stand, is there any continuing effort to determine anything else about the circumstances of what happened that night? Because at some point we're told it was suffocation, wasn't it, that may have led to the deaths in these children?
Yes, as I've said before, that it's still under investigation. Even what we were told is that it was a suffocation that caused the death of our children. We, as the parents, rejected that right to say those results that we were given are unacceptable to us. Something needs to be done, and the results need to be done properly in such a way that on our team, we will be finding a private pathologist that can go through those to make sure is what we were given by the state, is it really what it is?
And while the wait continues, adding to the stress and the grief that you have all suffered, what are your feelings towards the tavern owners who are currently in court for selling alcohol to minors? How do you feel when you think about them?
Well, if you look at them, you see that there's no remorse. They are not remorseful at all about what transpired at that fateful night. So it's also disappointing. I mean, for something like that to happen in your establishment, and then you act as if nothing has happened, it's quite heartbreaking, for us, the parents. It's heartbreaking. I mean, part of us has been taken away from us, and then the person who owns the establishment seems not to care about what happened in his establishment.
Mm. And your son's name, am I right, was Bongoletu?
Yes, my son's name was Bongoletu.
Yes, and he was among the 21 young people who died under very mysterious circumstances last June. What do you know for a fact around how he ended up at the tavern that night?
Well, it's, with the kids, I was also shocked to find out that he was there, because the place it's not in our area. In order to get into that place, you need to take a taxi or a car. And this incident was at night. This thing that was happening in that place, it was at night. And normally, my boys, they know that around 8 o'clock, the gates are closed. But on that night, they went to visit their aunt, who is not quite far from my area. in our area, which they normally do on weekends. And we never knew that, and it was the phenomenon they go in such places. So even when this was said on the news on that Sunday, to say that 21 children passed away in Scenery Park, I never thought in my mind that my son will be in that area with his friends, because one of his friends also, who is also in our street, also passed away. So in our area, there were two kids who passed away. It was my son and his friend. And some of them who were there with them, they survived.
How did you find out that your son had passed?
Well, when we check on the news and we saw some, my sister-in-law saw some pictures on Facebook. That's where the sister of his friend saw his brother on the pictures on Facebook. And then he told us that this is his brother who's lying there. And these boys, they went into that tavern last night. That's the only time I knew that he was there. And then I went to check on their aunt's place, and I found his younger brother, that he is there, and he didn't came back. So that's when I started to worry as to what could have happened to him.
And when you began to worry, where did you find him?
Then we drove to that area, and then when we get there, it was full. The community, the police, people from forensic health, it was full, and no one was allowed then to get in. And we were told that if we want to identify the bodies, we'll have to go to mortuary, the state mortuary. And we started to go and check at the hospitals, because we heard that some of the children were taken to the hospitals. Then we went to the hospitals and we find out, no, he's not there. Then we knew if he's not at the hospitals, he will be one of the killed. He will be one of the kids who passed away in that place.
And the youngsters then who survived from your area, have you been able to speak to them? What have they told you, if anything, about what happened inside that tavern on that night in June?
Yes, we managed to speak to the one who survived in that area. It's quite a lot that happened, because what they say is that there was something that was something that like a gas that was smelling like a gas that was thrown in the room, and it was smelling, and it was suffocating them. And then the electricity, it became load shedding. That's where they started all to try to run out of that area. And then the bouncers of the place, they closed the door, closing the key children inside that place.
And at this stage, what would give you and your family peace? What would closure mean to you?
There has to be accountability. There has to be justice for our children. I mean, for 21 children to die, and there's still this happening. It pains me. Even, I mean, it's almost a year now, but I'm still struggling to sleep. More especially when I think about him. He was doing grade 12 when the grade 12s started to write last year, and when the results came out this year. I mean, he's always been in my mind thinking, where could he have been now?
Mr. Khululekile Ncandana, thank you so much for speaking to us about the ordeal your family has suffered, and we hope that ultimately you do find some answers and healing to whatever extent. May never forget, but we hope it gets better.
Thank you very much.